Hey everybody, I am here with Ty Bellamy, the founder of Black Lives for Humanity, to talk a little bit both about their organization and their background and about the Other Side Village. So Ty, I just wanted to start out by asking you to tell us a little bit about your background and where your commitment to the issue of helping the unsheltered comes from.
First of all, good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. My background started actually when I was about 2 or 3 weeks old. My dad used to take care of not just unsheltered people, but people in need. Anybody who needed something, he was there for them. And so he started taking me out with him. And so I've been raised doing this. I'll be 49 years old next month, and I've done this all my life. This is all I know. So he did what he could to help people. And then my godmother used to serve dinners off of her porch. She would cook all day long and she would serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and just had a constant line around the block for miles to be fed. And then after dinner, she would turn her screened-in porch into a artwork, is what I call it. This service, my family really believed in, loving thy neighbor, and you are your brother's keeper. And so we just grew up doing this, my sister and I stuck to it a little bit more than she did. So when my dad passed away 27 years ago, I kept going because there's always going to be somebody in need. And he used to tell us that what we have is not for us. It's if we have it, it's for us to enjoy it while we have it. But then when somebody else comes along that needs it, we're to pass it on without question.
Well, that's amazing to see how much you've kept that legacy alive. And I think anybody who knows or has interacted with you has seen that you are the most sincere example of that kind of love and that kind of, person to person commitment. So you have this amazing organization now that you've, helped develop over the last few years, Black Lives for Humanity. Tell us a little bit about it, about the services you provide, and about your general advocacy.
Absolutely. Black Lives for Humanity movement just basically says that it was established and inspired by Black people. For humanity means we're for everyone, and it's a movement because we have to move. We have to keep going forward with resolutions and with solutions. We can't stay in one place and expect this issue to go away. It's not going to sweep itself under the rug. We see that, and we see that it continues to grow. And so that's where the name came from, because a lot of people think that it's something else. And it's not political. We need to, again, remember that we are our brothers and we are our sisters' keepers. We need to use what we have to help other people that don't have what they need to survive in this world. And so my organization, we're out there on a daily basis. People say, well, why are you out there every day? Because their struggle doesn't stop. It continues every day. Every day they've got to figure out how to survive, how to navigate through their struggle. And so if you're going to do this, you have to be committed because they depend on you. They need you. So we go out, we take in donations for clothing, for bedding, for things that keep them warm, for things that help them during this pandemic, like masks, sanitizer, I call them temporary housing, which are tents. Those are their homes. Shoes, food. We provide transportation to court hearings, to doctors. Whatever services they need, we make sure that they get them, even if we have to contact another organization and have them make those services mobile, and let them know where the campuses are so that they can service the people in need. So that's what we do. And this is a serious work because you can't start something like this and stop it, because then you leave people just hanging in the balance. And that's the problem. They need somebody and they need something that they can depend on. And we provide hope in doing that, because when they see us out there on a consistent basis, they know that we genuinely care. And a lot of them have lost hope. And when you lose hope, sometimes that can lead to depression, anxiety, suicide. If they already have those things, it just exacerbates those things. So we try to make sure that we are consistent, so that they know that we love them and that we care and that we're fighting this fight with them and that they're not alone, so that we can just instill that hope in them again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out to me the most when I first started getting to know you was that level of consistency. Was any time that I was meeting with you, you were out there in the streets before and after. You were out there forming those relationships and also providing essential services. You know what's going on in people's lives. You are taking them to the hospital visits, taking them to the courtroom. It's just I'm overwhelmed seeing the level of commitment and involvement that you have, and I think that it's true. You see with them that they respond to the fact that you have personal relationships. So switching gears a little bit, will you tell us how you became acquainted with the Other Side Village?
Yes, I first saw when Mayor Mendenhall had announced that the Other Side Academy was going to be doing the Other Side Village. And so when she made that announcement, I immediately started Googling. I'm like, who are these people? Because they just answered my prayers. Sorry.
It's okay.
When you see people struggle and you can only do so much, I can do everything for them, but I'm not in a position to build the community that they need. So when you see somebody announce that they are going to make that dream, they're going to answer that prayer for you, you start looking into who they are, you research, because not only am I looking to see who you are, but I'm making sure you're real.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making sure that you're committed. I'm making sure that when you start building this community for them, that it's going to service them. It has to address all of their needs or it will be an epic fail. So I started looking into the academy and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, cool. And I started making phone calls and I started having my friends call. Because unfortunately, people know my voice. I have a heavy voice for a woman. And so when I start calling and asking questions, I've heard people go, can you hold on a minute? You know, and then they go, is this Ty? And I'm like hanging up the phone or whatever. So, because I don't want you to tell me what you want me to hear. I want to know where you're exactly at. And so I started researching, and everybody that called themselves activists and boots on the ground was already going against you guys. And I was like, but you haven't done your research. And then you have to understand that the Other Side Academy is different from the Other Side Village. They're servicing two different populations. So if you don't do your research, you are disservicing the people you claim that you service, because when you're talking against something you know nothing about, these guys are listening to you because they think you're credible because you're out there with a phone on a live video. So it's important that we research before we open our mouths. And so then I was out in the field one day and Mo approached me. And he said, you know, he introduced himself and he said, you know, I'm with the Other Side Academy. Have you ever heard of us before? And I said, yes. And he said, well, what have you heard? And I said, no, I'm not going to tell you what I've heard. You tell me about the Other Side Academy. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going to go off of rumor and perception and assumptions. That's not how I operate. No, you tell me what you want to tell me, and then we'll go from there. And so right there, he was kind of like, oh, all right, well, this is different. So we started a dialogue and we exchanged phone numbers, and I continued to, I look at you guys all the time. I look at when Tim Stay, when Joseph Grenny, when you guys are on YouTube, I get notified. I watch your videos. I've shared them in my group. I've been advocating because you guys are willing to step into an arena and you're willing to address the needs of the players. And that is huge. There are people that are struggling with addiction. There are people that are struggling with mental health. There are people that are struggling with so many things, and you guys are going to be able to address all those needs. And I like the way that you're open-minded. I've had several conversations with your organization because, again, this is a population that I have a deep love for, and I'm very protective, and I have to make sure that the ball doesn't get dropped anywhere. So we've had several conversations. I've brought people from my organization in and had the presentations and things. We've Q&A'd you guys to death, and you've answered on the spot every single time. You've never had to hesitate. You've never looked nervous. You never look like you're searching for an answer. You guys know it. And the only way that you would know it off the top of your head is if you're sincere and you've done the work. So we continue to research you guys to make sure that everything is being addressed. If we've had suggestions, like I brought up, hey, some people are going to want to complete their high school education. They're going to want to get a GED, vocational school. They want to be actively employed. What are you doing to address those things? And you guys said, oh, well, let's look at that. And everybody started taking notes. You know, when we said, well, what if we have people, there's going to be a small number of people that are going to have a hard time at first coming in to four walls because they've been out there for so long. I mean, for many different reasons, they might not be ready to come right into a home, but they still need to have that safety where they're on private property, where they can be in a tent and they can slowly migrate into a home. You know, can you guys provide some type of a situation where maybe we can get uniform tents and they're neatly placed on the back of the property or something? Can we provide, you know, this, and you guys said, you know, we'll look into that. You've never said no, because you're open to suggestions to make sure that you get this right for them. And how can you not respect an organization that is willing to make sure that they cross all of their T's and dot every single I?
That's amazing to hear. I think on our organization side, we've received two extreme benefits from interacting with you and your organization, which is one, just learning a great deal about how to serve this population and changing our design plans according to feedback, and two, being held accountable. I can attest to the fact that you don't mess around. Accountability is number one, and you take more seriously than anything else the well-being of our brothers and sisters on the streets and what's being done for them. And I think our organization has benefited incredibly from the fact that that is all that's coming in when we have conversations with you. So we are grateful for that. So wrapping up here, last question. What do you hope that the Other Side Village can provide to our brothers and sisters that are currently unsheltered?
The stability that they need, the protection that they need, the mental health services, the addiction services, just the promise that they are worth every bit of the blood, sweat, and tears that are going into this village. They need to have their self-esteem restored and rebuilt. They need to know that they're worthy and that we value them and that they are human beings. And that's my biggest thing is, I'm all about education. I'm all about teaching people that you can't assume something. You have to go out and do the work. And the work is going out there and talking to them, getting to know their names, asking questions. They will open up to you and tell you their stories. But you've got to be willing to hear. We've got to stop listening to one narrative and jumping on that bandwagon and running with that. Because what happens is they're listening to somebody who's sitting in an office who is assuming that they know about this population rather than listening to the people that are out there every single day. I know almost 1,000 people's names. I know their family life. I know how they ended up on the street, how long they've been on the street. I know their mental health history. I know their medical health history. I know their children's names. Some of their family members call my phone to check up on them. When they want to call and let their mom know that they're still alive, I give them my phone. We're doing court hearings on Zoom now because of the pandemic. I give them my phone to log on. I'm working with DCF on some things with families. You have got to be available, and I can't thank you guys enough for really being sincere and really being serious about this and being committed to work, because like you said, I do not play around, and I don't sugarcoat anything. And I've seen a couple of times you guys is like, whoa, she doesn't mess around. But I appreciate the fact that you guys know I don't mess around and you still associate with me, because when you run away, that means you have something to hide. And you guys haven't run. And we just have to continue to be open. We have to change our thought process. I want to say this really quick before we get off. I had a guy one time that I found out at the end that he was actually a pilot for Southwest Airlines. But this man was one of these people that said to himself, why don't they just go get jobs? I drive by, they're able-bodied, they're holding signs, they're sitting there smoking a cigarette. They obviously can afford cigarettes. They're not cheap. You know, why don't they get a job? Why don't they just stop doing drugs and get their lives together? You know, and he said that he started feeling guilty after feeling like that most of his life towards this population of people. So he decided to dress the part and go unsheltered as an experiment to himself to teach himself. And he said that he had gone out and he had stayed at many different locations. And every time that he had been at a different location, because he stayed somewhere each night differently, he said, I always saw you. He said he saw me every day. I'd be out there, and he said, whatever we asked you for, you had it. If we asked you for the bathroom sink, you would hand it to us. If we asked you for gloves, if we asked you for shoes, you always had our size. He said, and you served the most wonderful food. It was hot, it was fresh. And he said, I could tell you put a lot of love into this. And he said, and I just thought that was a one-time thing. And then the next day I would go to a different campus and I would see you there. And he said other organizations would pull up. They would get out of their cars or their vans, walk up to people, hand them a paper bag, get back in the van and drive off. He said you would look in there and there would be feminine products, a bottle of water, and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Not once did they ask us our names, how we were doing, what we needed, nothing like that. He said it was such an inhumane experience. It was really degrading. Even though they were giving us something to eat and something to drink, the way they did it was so abrupt. It was almost like they were being forced to do it. And he said, you never made me feel that way. And so, you know, it's good to know that I had somebody that was not necessarily secret shopping me, but somebody that wanted to know the truth themselves. And so they took the time to go and live this lifestyle for a week to see what it was like so that he could dispel the myths that he had conjured up in his own head, or to make sure that he could change the narrative of other people that he'd been listening to and following. So that's what we need to do. We need to commit to ourselves that we're going to learn the truth, and you learn the truth by going out with people that really are out there, not the self-congratulatory people, people that are really out there, that are really making a change, that are really helping. Go out with us and let us show you, let us introduce you to your brothers and your sisters. Listen to their stories so that you can understand. And then you need to help. You need to help because you have something you're not using in your home, in your life, at your business, your place of employment that you could give to somebody else. And if we get together as a community, we can really make the changes that need to be made.
Yeah. Well, your commitment to developing those relationships has these cascading benefits where for our organization, you know, we would be halfway to the progress we've made today, thanks to your input and your years of developed experience. That has just, you know, obviously the most important part is the effect that you can have with individuals creating those relationships. But there is this additional benefit that comes to organizations that can sincerely interact with you. We're downloading years and years of experience and understanding and able to update all of our plans accordingly. Really, it's been invaluable for us to be able to have your input. And so our whole organization just wants to say thank you. Thank you to you, Ty. Thank you to the Black Lives for Humanity movement. Everyone that's part of your organization. I have the privilege of being in your Facebook chat and seeing day in and day out the amount of effort and really personalized detail that your organization does. The needs of an individual are not just a sack lunch and some products. It comes down to what's happening in your life and what is happening tomorrow. Where do you have to be? And your organization is up in that. I have yet to see the kind of really personal relationships that you've developed. So our organization says thank you for teaching us, and we can't wait to see what we build together.
Amen. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a great compliment to my father. And I know he's in heaven clapping for me. So that means a lot. Thank you. I never want to disappoint anybody. So I appreciate that feedback.
No, you haven't. So thank you for coming on today, Ty.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you
God